So that is what we have discussed in our previous session. I gave an exercise program. Did anyone get a chance to work on that? So I could see one reply, like in WhatsApp, I got message from one student. They tried it. I'm very happy for that. So did anyone else got a chance to try that program? Like get the name, age, and marks of the student and calculate the average of marks. Okay, let me give the just how to calculate. So you will have these variables as private in the class, like the private string name. This will be the first one, first variable, private int age, second variable, and private double, because marks can be even in decimals also. So double marks. These are the three variables that you will get, and you need to calculate the total. So private int total. Actually, no need of private also. Okay, no issues. Private. Oh, sorry. This also should be double. It should be double, because if marks are in double, then total also will be in double, and average will also be in double. So these are the 5 variables that you will be requiring. So for in among this, I will use setters only for these 3 methods. Set name will set the name for will set the name, and set age, set marks. Okay, and now for set total and set average, set total. In this total, what we have to do? So as marks is an array, so we are reading marks of 6 subjects. So marks will be an array. So what I will do in order to calculate the total, I'll need a for loop. For int I is equal to 0, I less than marks dot length, I plus plus. So which will iterate through each and every mark. Like suppose this marks in another class, what I will do is, I'll create an object to this class. So let this class be class ABC. For this class, I'll create an object. So ABC A is equal to new A, sorry. New ABC. I'm creating object to this class, and now A dot set name. What will be then? I'll give the name as Vasvik, and A dot set age. I'm setting the age as 20. A dot set marks. Here I have to pass an array. So marks of 6 subjects, right? So I need to pass an array. So how I can pass? New int, sorry, double. So double is the marks. So new double of, so what and all marks I want to set, I'll set here. Suppose 10.5, 15, 20.5, 16. So how many it is there? 4. The other one 21 and 23. So these are the 6 different subject marks that I will be passing. So this is an array. I'm passing an array to this marks. So my marks will contain all these 6 subjects. In order to calculate the total, I need to iterate through each and every element of this array. For that reason, I have taken an array here. Int I is equal to 0, I less than marks dot length, I plus plus. Now the first, in this for loop, what I'll do? Total plus is equal to marks of I. Okay, I'll end the for loop here. So that will be the total. So what will be the total? First time I is equal to 0, marks of I will be marks of 0, which is equal to 23. Initially, let the value of total be 0. So if it is 0, now total is equal to total plus marks of I. So initial value of total is 0. Now what we are modifying, it is equal to total plus marks of I. 0 plus 23. So it will new value will be 23. Again, the loop will be repeated. Now the I value will be 1. It will check the condition. So marks of length is 6. Marks dot length is 6. So until I is less than 6, this loop will be repeated. Now the total plus is equal to marks of I. So the value of total is 23. 23 plus what is marks of I? Now I value is 1. So I value initially it was 0. Now it is 1. uh, Total plus is equal to marks of I. That means total is equal to total plus marks of I. So initial value is 23. Now again we are adding marks of 1. Marks of 1 is 10.5. That means 23 plus 10.5, which is 33.5. That will be the new total value, and the I value will be incremented by 1. And again, the loop will be repeated. So it will be added with the next value. So total plus is equal to marks of I. Mark total is 33.5 plus 20.5. It is 53.54. The value will be 54 and the new value will be 3. So like this, it will calculate the total. Once the total is calculated, what we want to call? We want to call the average. Average. To calculate the average, we need to call the average method. So set average will be, so what is this set average? In this, we will be doing total average is equal to total by marks dot length. Marks dot length. That will be the average. So we have written setters for all these methods. Okay. Setters for all these methods we have written. Name, age, marks, total, average. Now you need to call the getters. So here you will call, a dot set total. No, nothing you will be passing. A dot set average. Okay. Now you need to print the average. So I asked you to print the average, right? System.out.println, the average marks are a dot get average. So this is how you will be writing the program for this. So get average will return the average. Is it clear, all of you? Okay. So now we will be jumping into the new concept. So that's for till now we have discussed about the OOPS, Java OOPS concepts. So now we will see what is collections. Collections is the main part. Definitely in the interview perspective, they will be asking a question from collections. What is collections and why we need to use the collections in Java, and what are the different. So there are a lot of types of collections. So they'll be asking you the difference between the hash map and hash table. So a lot of questions will be there in these collections. And in OOPS concepts, they may ask you what is polymorphism and what is the difference between an interface and an abstract class. So these kind of questions they'll be asking, but in collections, there is a lot of scope for interviewer to ask questions. So what is collection? Okay. Suppose you are holding data. So I think all of you will be aware of database. What is database? Gathering the data in the form of tables, right? So whatever information you are gathering, that you store it in the form of tables, right? Suppose you are gathering some information regarding employee. So employee of an organization. All what are the details that you will be gathering? Employee name, employee ID, employee age, employee salary, like this, employee account. So like this, you will be gathering a lot of information about an employee. So in an organization, there won't be one employee. Hundreds of employees will be there, or thousands of employees will be there. So all the employee details, you will be storing it in the form of tables. Why we store it in the form of a table? Because it will be easy for us to access the data, to store the data or to get the data. This will be the easy way. So randomly, if I store like this in a notepad, if I write the details in a notepad, like this, employee name is equal to so and so, age is equal to so and so salary is equal to so and ID is equal to so and so. If I write the details of employee like this is employee one details, or employee two details, if I write the same thing like this. So for storing it will be okay, but in order to access this information, you need, if you want to search the data of 90th student, 90th employee, you have to navigate through each and every employee and search for the name or ID of that employee for all these details. So it will be difficult for us to filter the data. It will be difficult for us to filter the data if you are storing it in this format. If you store the data in the form of the table in database, you have lot of SQL commands. SQL stands for sequential query language. Query language. Query means questioning. So it is a language to query this database table. To query means if you want to get any data, you can use the commands using the SQL language and you can get the data. So how many number of rows it might be? It might be 1,000 or 1 lakh rows. How many number of rows it might be? But using the simple SQL commands, you can filter the data and you can get the information of an employee within a fraction of seconds, just like that. The thing is, you should know how these commands to get the data. You should know the which command will help you to get the data. So there are basic commands like CRUD. We call them as CRUD. C stands for create a row, create a table or create a row in this table. R stands for retrieving or getting the data from that. Getting the data from the table. U stands for updating the data. So existing data you need to modify. For that you use update command, update the data. D stands for deleting the data. So these are the basic commands that we have in SQL. So using which we can add or get, update and delete the data. So these are the basic commands that we have in SQL. So which will help us to easily create the data, add the data, create or add the data, get the data whatever you want. Suppose you want to get the employees whose salary is greater than 50,000. So you can simply get it like select employee name from employee table where salary is greater than 50,000. If you run this command, this is the select command we have, which will help you to get the data, which is R stands for getting the data, right? So select will help you to get the data. Select employee name. It will give all the employee names from employee table. This is the table name. So from employee table, you get all the employee names where salary is greater than 50,000. Salary, it will fetch the salaries of all the employees whose value is greater than 50,000 and displays the employee names of all those employees whose salary is greater than 50,000. So database tables will help us for easily accessing the data, to store the data or to get the data, to update the data or to delete the data. Everything will be more feasible in tables, if the data is stored in the form of the tables. For that reason, we use database to store the data, which will help us to store information in the form of tables. And you can have simple SQL commands, simple basic SQL commands in order to perform all these operations like CRUD operations. Whatever you want, you can perform it. It will be very flexible for us to manage the data. To manage the data, this will be very flexible. Instead, if you are storing it in Excel or Notepad, that feasibility will not be there. The feasibility of accessing the data will not be there. You feel it more difficult to access the data. Okay, so that is why we go for database SQL commands. Now, in Java, the in Java also, you for so programmers, what they'll do, they'll get lot of data when writing the code or from UI, when they are fetching some information. Suppose I'm trying to automate Amazon homepage. So Amazon homepage, I'm trying to automate. What I want to check, my test case is to check if all the links are working fine. If you open Amazon page, you can find n number of almost about 100 links, and you want to check if all these links are working fine or not. Suppose if you open Amazon here, so there are lot of links available. So if you, this is a link, this is a link, if you open these things, it will be navigated to a new page. So lot of links are available in this home page. So even these are also links. So what, so if you click on this, new page will be opened, right? So these are links. So if you want to check if all these links are working fine or not, first what you have to do, you have to first gather all these links. Gather all the links. Once you gather, you need to iterate through each and every, that means you need to use a for loop or for each loop, whatever loop. Use a loop and iterate through each and every link. Each link. And finally, what you have to do, you have to check if the link is proper or not, if the link is working fine or not. Check if link is fine. So these things you have to do. So in Java also, when you're working with an application, you will come across lot of data. So you need to store lot of data. Instead of going and working with the database table, in Java, they have provided a concept called collections. So collections will help us in effectively store the data and access it efficiently. Access the data efficiently. So when you are working in real-time projects, you will come across this issue. So user will have to store lot of bulk data, but they'll find difficult in storing and accessing it effectively. So collections will help us to make the task very easy for the user. So collections is nothing but it is a storage similar to database, I can say. Storage where you can store the data and access the data more efficiently. Okay. So this is the advantage of collections in Java. It will help us to store the data and get the data more efficiently. Now we will see, actually we have seen one type of collection. Can someone tell me? So one type of collection we have already seen. Can somebody tell me? Even today also we discussed that one. Can somebody relate the collections to the concept which we have discussed even today also? Arrays. arrays. So lot of information, lot of data. This is single dimensional data you are able to store. Table is a two-dimensional data. So in 2 dimensions, you will be storing and getting the information. Whereas array is single dimensional data, one-dimensional data. You will be storing it, right? So array is also a kind of collection which will help us to store lot of data, and you can easily access them using the indexing. So using the indexing concept, you can easily access the data and store the data. So arrays is one kind of collections we can say, but this is the basic thing we can call, but there are a lot more to discuss about the collections. So what is a collection? Storing data of similar data type under single variable, that we call it as a collection. The data should be of similar type. So if you want to store integers, it should be all the data should be of integer type only. So there is no collection, no concept of collection like this. One is integer, the next one is float, the other one is char and string, and you are trying to store all these data types in a single collection. It won't work. All the data members data type should be the same. So if you want one variable, one data item is of type integer, all should be of type integer. Then only will the collection will allow. Unless it is an object. If it is an object, it will allow all kinds of data in float, char, string. So that we will be discussing going forward. But as of now, what you will remember is, if you want to store a collection, the data type of all the data members should be the same. If it is int, if all the data members type should be int. If it is float, all the data type, uh, the data type of all the data members should be the float. So there should not, so it should not be a combination or a mixture like this. Then it will not allow and it will not work. Collections, this is the just like drawback in it. It will not allow different data types to be stored. So in Java collections, it will be similar to the array, but more than that, we will see what are the added advantages when compared to arrays in collections. Okay, so this is one thing that you need to remember. So the next point is object is the superclass of all the classes in Java. So object class, whatever class you create, all will be the child class for under this object. Object is the superior class of all the classes in Java. So whatever class you are creating, all will come under this object class. Object is the main boss. So he will be superior of all the classes in Java. So under this Java, you will have two types of collections. One is the arrays. We have already seen what is an array and how to store the data and how to get the data from arrays and how to modify the data. Everything we have seen. Now, the other type of data storage is called collections in Java. We will see how it look like, the framework of Java. Okay. So in interview perspective, they'll ask you, have you worked in collections framework? If you say yes, then your scope of questions will be in all these concepts which we have mentioned here. So collections, what if I have mentioned something in a rectangular box, that means it is an interface. If I mentioned something in ellipse shape, inside this ellipse shape, that means it is a class. Okay. So if it is a blue arrow, that means it is extending. If it is a red arrow, that means it is implementing. An interface can extend another interface. See, the rectangular boxes are interfaces. An interface can extend another interface. So iterable is the parent interface. Collections is the child of iterable interface. And under this collections, you have three types of collections mainly: set, list, queue. There is one more in collections, which is map. So four different types of collections we have: set, list, queue, and map. So under this set interface, there are again different classes. hash set, linked hash set, tree set. Tree set means it will be in sorted order, either in ascending order or descending order. So it will be a child of sorted set interface, and this sorted set interface is again a child of set. So don't worry, we will discuss each and every element of this map, of this framework. You no need to worry about all those things. Going forward, we'll be discussing each and every uh, element present in this framework. So first we will be starting with the list, and we will be covering all these four concepts like array list, vector, stack, and linked list. Then we'll be moving to the further concepts. Okay. So don't worry, as of now, this is just what is a collections. So what and all are the elements of the collections framework? I have mentioned it in this slide. So we will be discussing on each and everything which is mentioned in this framework. But before discussing all those things, you need to understand few terminologies. So in collections, I'll be repeatedly using few terminology like what is ordering, what is random access, what is key value, what is thread safety. So then you should be able to understand all this. So we'll discuss first these concepts, like what is meant by ordering and what is random access, what is key value, what is thread safety. We will be discussing the few basic concepts which we'll be regularly using, like terminologies which we'll be using. Then we'll go further. Okay. So now what is ordering? Ordering means the data which we store should have proper order. They should be stored in proper order. So few of the collection members, they will be stored in a proper order. Few of the collection members, they will not have proper order. Example, set. Set. So in this set collection, the data will not be stored in a proper order. So if I'm adding one element, so there are, suppose in this set collection, I have members like this, 10, 15, 20, 55 like this. This is the data that I want to store in the set. But this data will not be stored in a proper order. Order means, suppose in array, if I have 5 elements, whatever the first element I'm adding, 10, that will be stored at the index 0. If I am adding the next element, that element will be stored at the index A of 1. Next element will be stored at the index A of 2, like this. It will follow a proper order. But whereas set, it will not be stored in this order. It will store randomly like this. So 15 will be stored at A of 0, and 55 will be stored at A of, I'm just saying an example, not this one. I'm just saying for ordering. So order will not be there. So no proper order. It will store randomly, and we have to get all the data information at random access. So data will not be stored in the proper order. Ordering means if the data how the data is stored. Few collection elements will store the data in a proper order. Few collection elements will not store the data in a proper order. If they are stored in proper order, then we can use the indexing concept to access the each and every element. If they are not stored in a proper order, there are other ways where you can access each and every element that we will see. Okay. So set is one example where data is not stored in a proper order. Ordering will not be there. So the elements of the collections are arranged in a proper order and can be accessed by index. If they are not stored in a proper order, then we call it as non-ordering is not there for that particular collection. Okay. Now, the next one is random access. What is random access? So if the data is stored in a proper order, randomly we can access the data like this. Suppose in this array, you want to get randomly A of 2. Can you get the data A of 2? Yes, you can get. So what is random access means? randomly you can access the data. So if the data is stored properly, randomly you can get any data, right? What is the third element of this array? You can simply get like this, A of 2. What is the fifth element of this array? You can get it by A of 4. So randomly you can access the data. But if the data is stored in, if the data is not stored in a proper order, randomly if it is stored like this, somewhere and somewhere, so wherever it want, it has stored. There is no proper order for this data. Can you have this random access? No. You cannot have random access to the unordered cell collection. If the data is not ordered properly, then you cannot have the random access. Randomly, you cannot get the particular data. What you can do is you can iterate through each and every element and you can get that. Randomly, you will not be able to access. For set, you will not be randomly able to access the data. So this is one next concept. Then the other one is key value. What is the key value? Can someone tell me? I think all of you are aware of contacts in your mobile. Contacts feature in your mobile. If you want to store any contact in your mobile, so you will take a 10-digit mobile number of that person and you will be saving it with some name. So whatever name you want to save, like Bunny, you will be saving that contact number with that name, right? Here, key value means, so if you want to get any contact number again, what you will search? Will you search for with this 10-digit mobile number, or you will use this name Bunny in order to get the mobile number? What will
Name.
you do?
Name.
Yes. You use the name. You search with the name, then you will get the mobile number, right? Search with this
Yes.
name. The same way here, the names will act as keys. For these keys, whatever values, mobile number you are giving, that will act as values. Key value. For this key, you will get the value. When you want to search for a particular element, then you will use the key. Whatever, if you want to update the contact number also, you will first go to the key and you will update the value. So keys will play the major role in this key value pair of storing the data. So there is a collection which will store the data in the form of key value. Okay, so keys and values, specific values. The data will be stored in this format. Whatever you want to do, what you will do it based on the key only. If you want to update some particular value, first you will search for that key, and for that key, what is the value assigned, and on top of that only you will make any changes. So key will be the main part. Okay, so the data will be stored in the form of key and value, and if whatever you want to do, you will be first getting the data with the help of these keys, and based on that you will be performing the activity whatever you want to do. Can someone tell me, can I store another contact with the same name? Bunny, another number. This is some 1 2 3 like this. Can I store another number with the same name? Is that allowed? See, in system, so in your
No,
mobile, for Bunny,
it
one
won't
more
help.
number like this you can store. The same name, two numbers you can store. But with the same name like this, can you store?
No.
No, right? The same way, what does that mean? Key cannot be duplicate.
Yes.
Duplicates are not allowed for keys. That is what I want to say here. Keys cannot be duplicate. Values may be duplicate. Values may be duplicate. If you want to save the same number with some other name, yes, you can do that. But keys should not be duplicate. Values can be duplicate, but keys cannot be duplicate. So this is one more format how we can store the data. Key value pair. Okay. Now, thread safety. What is thread safety? I'll take an example of bank account to explain this. So this is my bank balance. Suppose in my bank, I have a balance of 1,000 rupees. Okay. This is the bank balance of now. On this, for my bank account, I am trying to perform both debit, debit and credit at the same time. Same time, I am trying to perform both credit and debit. I am trying to perform debit of 100 rupees and credit of 200 rupees at the same time. Same time. There is no lag. Exactly at the same time, I'm trying to perform these two activities. How the system will work. And again, I want at the same time I'm trying to perform, I want to check the balance. Check the balance in my bank account. You may think, how can all this be performed at the same time? So at ATM, I'll be doing this debit. So don't worry about that. But I'm trying to do all these things at the same time. Will the system be consistent? Will the system be consistent? Will the system work properly? No, there won't be any consistency. The system will not work properly. There will be so actually, if you are performing debit of 100 and credit of 200, the balance should be 1,000, 1,100. But if all these are accessing this balance at the same time, bank balance, and they are trying to update this one. So debit is trying to update the balance and credit is trying to update the balance at the same time. Check balance will be reading the value of this balance, so it is not updating. So it is not updating. Whereas debit and credit, they are trying to update. Sorry, they are trying to update the value of balance. So at the same time, if they are trying to perform the update operation, there will not be any consistency. First, this may come and it will crash the balance, and again this may come and it will crash the balance. So there will not be any consistency. It exact value should be 1,100 for balance, but if they are performing at the same time, definitely the value of balance will not be 1,100. If they are performed at the same time, the values will not be the same. It will not be the 1,100. Definitely there will be some other like crash in the balance and it will not be consistent. So if so we call this whatever methods or whoever is trying to access this balance and they are trying to update this balance at the same time, those we call them as threads. So debit is one thread, debit operation is one thread in Java terminology. Credit is one thread. Check balance is one more thread. If multiple threads, they are trying to get access to this common variable or common method, which is here it is a variable. What is the variable here? Balance. So if multiple threads are trying to get access to this balance and they are trying to modify that variable, they are trying to modify that variable at the same time, then there is a chance that the system may crash. The system may crash. So what they have done, in order to make this variable safe from multiple threads, in order to make this variable safe from multiple thread updations. Multiple threads, if they are trying to update this variable, in order to make it thread safety, then we use a concept called synchronization. Got the concept of thread safety? So when multiple methods or multiple tasks are trying to get access to a common variable, and they are trying to update that variable at the same time, then there exists system inconsistency. The system may crash. So in order to avoid that, we make the common variable thread safe by using the concept of synchronization or volatile. We'll make that variable as either volatile or synchronized. So there are a lot of concepts which can make this variable, common variable like balance here, which can make it thread safety. Otherwise we can make it as private and will give only read access. So check balance is only reading the value, it is not updating the balance. So check balance will display the balance available here, so it is not trying to update it. So what we do, we make this variable as read only. Instead of updating, we can make it read only, then also it will be thread safe. So there are a lot of options available to make it thread safety. Few of them are synchronization and volatile. Making this variable as synchronized. What does this synchronized do? Synchronized once. So let me go to the new screen. What is synchronization in thread safety? Suppose debit and credit are trying to access balance at the same time. Now if I define this variable as synchronized is a keyword in Java. If I use this keyword for this variable, suppose the initial value is 1000. Okay. If I use this keyword synchronized, what this will do is, these two came at the same time, exactly at the same time. Then what this synchronized will do? So if I don't use this synchronized, both will try to access this balance at the same time. If I don't use this keyword, when I start using this keyword synchronized, when two people come and wait for the same variable to access the same variable and to perform the update operation, they want to update this balance variable, modify this balance variable, then what this synchronized does is, first it will give access to either of the one. It will give access to either debit or either credit, not both, only one at a time. So it will give a debit. Suppose I'm saying if it gives access to debit, then this balance will be locked. It will be locked. If other is coming, now credit is also trying access to this variable, but this is locked by the debit. Debit has locked this variable. So credit has to wait until lock is released. So until the lock is released, credit has to wait. The lock will be released only when debit has completed its task. Debit has completed, the debit operation is performed completely and it is successful and the balance has been updated. Suppose I want to debit 100. So debit is performed successfully and the balance has been updated to 900. Then this lock will be removed. Once the lock is removed, the waiting threads, what are waiting for this access to this balance, one by one it will give access. So as of now, credit is waiting. So the lock will be given to credit. Now credit will lock this variable. Debit has released and credit will have the access of lock on this variable. Now credit will do its operation once it got the lock. So if I want to do a credit of 200, I can perform the credit and now the balance will be 1100. Once the credit is done, if any thread is coming and trying to access this balance, so credit will release and the access will be given to this thread, XYZ thread, whichever is asking for access to this variable, balance variable. So what is meant by synchronization? At a time, access will be given only to one thread, only one thread. At a time, access to this variable, synchronized variable, or a method. If a method is synchronized, then access to that method will be given only to one thread. It may be, here we have discussed an example of a variable. It can be a method also. If multiple threads are trying to access the same method, suppose this is my method, multiple threads are accessing this method at a time, and there are few variables which are getting updated in this method. So if multiple threads are trying to access the same method at a time, as there are variables here which are updatable. So there are some modifications done for a few variables in this method. So if this thread is coming and modifying the value here, and this thread is coming and modifying the variables here, this one is also coming and modifying the variables here, there will not be any consistency for that variables. So what we do, if even if you want to make a particular variable as synchronized, you can do it like this. If you want to make a method as synchronized, you can use this keyword synchronized method name. So which will help you to give access for only one thread at a time. Access will be given to one particular thread at a time. If access is given for a particular thread, then that method or variable will be locked by that thread. Then other threads have to wait until the lock is released. Once the lock is released, then the next thread will get the access. I can say it simply as a queue. Others have to wait in that queue. Once the particular thread is got the access, it will be locked. Once its task is completed, it will release the lock. The next thread will get the access. It will do its task and release the lock once it is completed. Is this concept clear, all of you? What is thread safety? So
Yeah.
thread safety means when multiple threads are accessing a particular code snippet. Snippet means a piece of code. Okay. So here in this example, I have declared private int th is equal to 0. Now this is a public method which everyone will have the access. So what I'm doing here, that for the th or temp value is getting modified here, right? So int temp is equal to th, temp plus is equal to 1, th is equal to temp, and I'm returning the temp value. Suppose I am at this particular line of my execution and another thread at this line, when I'm trying to execute it, my execution is at this point of line, another thread came and accessing this one. So when the first thread is at this point, I'll tell you like this, 1 second. It will be even more clear. Okay, this is the private int th is equal to 0. Now this is the public method, some method. Okay, here I am declaring int temp is equal to I think I gave default. Yeah, temp is equal to th, temp plus is equal to 1, and now th equal to temp, return temp. Okay, there are two threads, thread 1 and thread 2. Okay, now the first thread is executing at this line, thread 1. Okay, at this point, thread 2 is coming and asking for access to this method. Here thread 2 is there. So if I don't use synchronized, even thread 2 will get the access and it will start executing this method. So when the thread 2 comes here, when thread 2 comes this to this point and it has executed this line, thread 1 will be here. Thread 1 will be executing this line. Okay. Now it has to return the temp value. It has to return the temp value, but it is modified by thread 2. So initial value of temp is 0. Now it is incremented by 1 by this thread 1. So it will be 1, which is modified by thread 1. And when it came to this final one, which is return temp, before that thread 2 has modified the value of temp. Thread 2 has modified, it has incremented by 2 by thread 2. So at this line, when thread 1 comes to this line, returning the temp value, thread 2 has incremented its value again. Now actually, it has the temp value which has to be returned for thread 1 is 1. This should be the return value. But what will happen as thread 2 has modified this value, thread 2 has modified this temp value. Instead of returning 1, it will return this one. This value will be returned to thread 1. Returned to thread 1. Got the consequences, how the data will get crashed? Have you understood? So actually this value has to be returned to thread 1. But at this point, at the time of returning the value, thread 2 has modified this temp value. Thread 2 has modified this temp value. It has been incremented by 1 more. It has the new value of temp is now 2. This value will be returned to thread 1, right? So the temp value is modified by thread 2. Now it is 2 now. Instead of returning 1, it will return 2 now. So in order to avoid such things, we can make this method or this variable, temp variable has synchronized. If you make this synchronized, so once if thread 1 is accessing this data, this variable, all other threads will wait until the execution of this method is completed. Clear, all of you? All of you, is it clear what is thread safety? So in this, when multiple threads are accessing a particular code snippet at a time, the code snippet is safely accessed by all the threads and they behave as expected. For this, we use the keywords like synchronized, final. Yeah, you can use the final also. If you use final, no others will have access to perform the update operation. So that also you can do. You can use volatile to make the below code thread safe. Is it clear, all of you? Okay. So that's all for today. This is a theoretical session. Even for the next 1 or 2 sessions, it will be theoretical. Then we'll go for actual programming for these collections. So if you have any doubts, you can ask me. Okay. So if you don't have anything, we can wind up this call. We'll meet in the next session. Collection, what are different terminologies in collections? Like what is ordering? What is the hierarchy? What is the complete framework of a collection? Okay. So these are the few things that we have seen in yesterday's session. Like what is random access? What is key value? What is thread safety? Okay. Now we will see few more concepts. So in a list, so in a collection, there are 4 different categories: set, list, queue, and map. So these are the 4 different categories in a collection. So what type of, based on the type, how they store the data, they are divided into 4 types: set, list, queue, and map. So based on how the data is stored in these collections. So there are 4 different types of storing the data: set, list, queue, and map. Now we'll see one by one. So what is meant by a list? List means it is a ordered collection, though similar to array, which is dynamic. So what is a dynamic array? And it will not allow it. So it will allow duplicates. Now so we'll see clearly on what is the difference between a list and an array. So this is a list and this is an array. List is called as dynamic array. Why it is called as dynamic array? Because when you are declaring an array, you have to either specify size of the array or specify all the members of array. So we know two types of declaring an array, right? The first way is, suppose I'm taking integer array, int a is equal to new int of 5. So this is the first way. We have to specify the size of array. The second way is int a is equal to 10, 15, 12, 13, so 55, like this. The second way is specify all the members of array. So these are the members of array. We have to specify all the members of the array. So at the time of declaring an array, so at the time of declaring an array, you have to do either of this. You have to specify either the size of array or you have to specify all the members of array. That means the size of array is fixed. Suppose you gave, so let it be A, B, and this be A. Suppose you defined 5 members for this array A. And if you want to add the 6th element to this array, will it allow? No, it won't allow, because the size of this array is fixed and it is equal to 5. It will allow only 5 members. Out of this, if you want to add 6th element, you cannot do it. At runtime, it will not, the size of the array is fixed. It will not allow the elements more than its size. Here also, if you have defined the elements here, so the elements are fixed. You cannot add new elements to this array. So for AB also, whatever you have given at the time of declaration, those elements are fixed. At runtime, you cannot add any elements to this array. So suppose now if I want to add AB of 6 is equal to some element like 45, it will not allow. It will not allow, because what at the time of declaring this array, at the initial time itself, at the initial point itself, you have declared all the elements of array. Those are fixed. And after that, once the declaration is done, in between, if you want to add any element to this extra element to this arrays, it will not allow. That means the size of the array is fixed. Whereas in list, it is called as dynamic array. It is similar to array, but its size is not fixed. Size is not fixed. So no need to define the size of the list. No need to define initially the elements of the list. The size can be extended to how much elements you want. You can extend the size. So it will not ask you to specify the size. So it will not ask to specify the size. It will not ask you to specify all the members at the beginning itself. So it will not allow you to specify the size. It will not ask you to define all the elements like this at the beginning itself. So it is called dynamic array because the size can be altered at runtime. The size of list can be altered, changed at runtime. Whereas for array, the size can't be altered. The size cannot be modified. Whatever you have specified at the time of declaring an array, that is fixed. You cannot alter its size and add new elements. So that is the one of the main difference between list and array. So other than that, accessing the elements will be similar to list. Like for if you want to access second element, you use the concept of indexing, right? A of 2. So this will give you return you the third element of the array. The same way here also for list, you will have indexing concept to access elements. Indexing will be there. So you based on index, you can access all the elements of the list. And so as it is indexed, so the data will be arranged properly in an ordered. So this we call it as ordered collection. List is an ordered collection because the elements, whatever you add to this list will be orderly arranged. They will be arranged properly with indexes. So with indexes, they will be arranged. Okay. And the size of it can be varied at any point of time in your program. So that these are the main differences between a list and an array. So they'll ask you at interview point of time, what is the difference between an array and array list? You can say it for an array, the size is fixed, but whereas array list, it is dynamic array where the size of the list can be altered at runtime as well. So for array, you have to specify the size at the time of declaring an array. For list, you no need to specify the size and specify the elements at the beginning itself. So at runtime, at any point of time in your program, you can add, modify, delete, remove, or do whatever you want for a list. You can add any number of elements to a list. So that is the difference between a list and array. So list is an ordered index-based collection. It is dynamic array and it allows duplicates also. So a list can have duplicate values. Suppose here I am storing 15. Again, at this location, I can store 15. It will allow duplicates, whereas array also will allow duplicates, but this is one of the feature of a list which it allows the duplicates. Few collections will not allow duplicates. That is why we have to know whether a collection allows duplicate or does not allow duplicates. Okay, list will allow duplicates. It will allow to store duplicate values. That is about the list. We'll see in deep when we go into the program. This is basic understanding what is a list. Okay. Now, before going to set, I'll discuss about this queue. What is queue is first in, first out. Queue means in general English terminology, what we know about queue, the same thing. So if you are waiting in a queue in a hospital or for any other thing, or if you go to any shop like Reliance Smart or somewhere, you will be waiting in a queue. So the person who enters the queue first, they will be processed first and they will go out of the queue first. The same thing, the element which comes first in will be processed first. First who comes will be processed first and they'll go out first. So queue means first in, first out. The elements which come in first will be processed first and they'll be moved out first. So this will be a queue. That is the concept of queue. So they will be added like this. They will be added like this. Okay. So these are the, suppose this is a queue and first I'm adding 10. So 10 will be stored here and 10 will be, so the processing will be from this end. So whichever element is first, that will be processed first. So we have the elements. First I have added 10, 15, 12, 25 and 50 like this. So first when I add 10, it will be stored here. Now, if I add 15 to this queue, 15 will be added here and 10 will be pushed here. Now, if I add 12, these two will be shifted to right, and 12 will be added to the queue like this here. So that is what it will happen. So finally, how the elements will be stored here is, so every time when you add an element, those will be all the elements will be pushed to the right once. Okay, so now final, the last element is 50, 25, 12, 15, and 10. So the elements will be stored like this. So 10 is at this position. So 10 will be processed first. 10 will be processed first. And then 15 will be processed, 12, 25, and 50. The process, the order of processing will be in this way. So this is the default queue. So generally what the queue, so what will happen in a queue? This is the default thing that will happen in a queue, default queue. But you can change the priorities. Suppose in a hospital, a lot of people are waiting for appointment. In that, if there are any old patients, like old age people who are waiting, so they may get the high priority. Or patients with kids are there, so they may get high priority. Right? The same way, we have one more type of queue called priority queue. Priority queue. So based on the priorities, every element will have a priority. So based on the priorities, the processing can be done. Even though, suppose I say even numbers have high priority. If I say even numbers have high priority, so even though 50 came last, it can be processed even before 15 or 25. So based on priorities also the processing can be done. This is also a priority queue. This is also a type of queue which works based on priorities. So each and every element can be processed based on the priorities. Suppose now here 10 came first, 15 came next, 12 came, 25 and 15. So these are the elements which came in this order. But what is our priority? If I give the priority like even numbers should be processed first. Even numbers should be processed first. Then the queue arrangement will be first will be 10, next is 12, next is 50, then out of this 15 and 25. So, okay, this will be the order, and based on the priorities, the queue has been remodified, and this is the order how the elements will be processed. Okay, even we can sort this in ascending or descending order. Based on that also we can prioritize, and the queue can be processed in that way. Suppose if I want these elements to be processed based on ascending order. Ascending order. Now, if it has to be in ascending order, then first 10 will be processed, next 12, 15, 25, and 50. So this will be the processing order. So priority queue is nothing but based on the priorities, we can set the priority to the queue, and based on that priority, we can process the elements. Okay. So this is about queue. General queue will, so by default, the queue will be processed based on first in, first out. The element which came first will be processed first. So that will be the order. But if you want to add any priorities to the elements, that also we can do. So then it will act as a priority queue. Based on the priorities of the elements, they will be processed. Okay. The next one is map. What is a map? Map will store the data in the form of key value pair. Okay. Map stores the data in the form of key and value. We have seen what is key value pair. Okay. So key will be playing in an important role. Okay. Key should be unique. Key should be unique, and it will allow only one null value. What is null value? If there is nothing, then we call it as null. So it will allow one null value. Okay, so that also based dependent on the map type. So for now, we will see that we will consider key as unique. So key will always be unique. It will not be duplicate. No duplicates are allowed for a key. No duplicates are allowed for a key. Okay, the value can be anything, whatever we want, it can store. So values may be duplicate. That is not the important thing that we need to consider, we have to mainly concentrate on key. So key will always be unique and it will not be duplicate, whereas value can be duplicate and it can be null also. That is not a problem. So how we can access these things? Generally, the key will always be a string. Most of the cases, key will be a string. Why we take a string as a key? So there is a reason, because string is immutable. As a string is immutable, we consider this as a key. So it is not mandatory that the key should always be a string, but generally we take strings as keys. A key can be another integer or another character or anything, any data type it can be. But generally we take a string as a key. Why? Because string is immutable. So what is meant by immutability? Suppose, can somebody tell me the output of this one? String S is equal to ABC. Now S dot can somebody tell me the difference between, so what is the output at this line, both these lines? Can somebody tell me the output for the string?
First one ABC XYZ.
ABC XYZ. Okay, let me write.
We are concatenating, so we are joining the ABs.
Okay, so what is the output here?
11.
Okay, so how many will accept the answers? So these two, and any other answers apart from these two? Others, if you have any different answers for this? Okay. I'll say this as correct. The output will be correct because integers are mutable. But this output is not correct because strings are immutable. If you write a program and print like this, no modification will be done. So if you print output here, system.out.println, concat of yes, then the output will be this one, ABC XYZ. The string yes will not be modified. If you print the output here like this, the value of yes will be still ABC only. It will not make any changes to the main string because strings are immutable. I'll show you a program as well. Let me show you. We create a new program in collections. Mm. String s is equal to ABC. Now s dot concat of XYZ. If I print yes, so let me save this one and see the output. It is still ABC. It is not ABC XYZ because strings are immutable. That means they are not ready for any changes. So these are the top, on top of string, we are doing the changes, but not to the main string. We are not changing anything. Okay, let me tell you. So if I print s dot concat of this one, if I print, here the output will be ABC XYZ. But the main string, yes, will not be changed. Okay, why? Because strings are immutable. What is what is happening when we are doing all these things? Let me show you clearly. Suppose string S is equal to A, B, C. When I define a string like this, strings are not stored. So there are two types of memory locations. One is normal memory. Heap is called memory location where the data will be stored. So the other one is SCP. SCP stands for string constant pool. Okay. So in SCP, whenever you define any variable, string variable, so the variable will be stored in SCP, not in this memory, heap memory. So you have defined S in ABC. So ABC will be stored in string constant pool like this. It will be stored like this. Now, if you are defining string S2 or S2 any another variable like this, and which is having the same value, A, B, C. Generally, if it is int A is equal to 10 and int B is also equal to 10, how it will be stored is, so two values, two storage locations will be there. This will be assigned to address A and this will be assigned to address B. Okay, so these are the variables and you have to access it like this. So A will be pointed to this one and B will be pointed to this one. So generally for integers or any other data types, the data will be stored in this format, even if it is same data also. So 10 is same, but we are giving two different variable names. So accordingly, in two different locations, the data 10 will be stored with the names A and B like this. But for strings, so if you are defining two strings like this, S and S2, but with the same data, then so S will be initially pointing to this location. So S will be pointing to this location. The same way, S2 also will be pointing to the same location. It will not create one more ABC and point that S2 to different location. Both S1 and S2 will point to the same location because the content is same. ABC, ABC. Okay. Now, if I'm performing any operation on this string yes, suppose I am performing s dot concat of xyz. Okay. Now what will happen? If it modifies the content of yes, if the content of yes is modified, then S2 will not point to this location. S2 has to create again ABC, right? So now if, see, AB, if I'm making any, both S and S2 are pointing to the same location. That means they hold the same data and they're pointing to the same location in the memory. If I'm making some changes to the content of S, then S2 will get disturbed, right? So because these both are pointing to the same location, if I make some changes to the content of S, S2 will also get altered. That will get disturbed. So what it will do, if I'm trying to make any changes on top of the content of S, that data will be stored in the heap. So now S dot concat of XYZ means the output should be ABC XYZ, right? That will be stored in heap. ABC XYZ. But still, S and S2 will point to SCP location, which is ABC, and these two point to the same memory location, S and S2. They'll be commonly pointing to the same location. So whatever modifications we do, that will be stored in the heap memory, which is volatile. It will not hold for long time. It is volatile memory. That will evaporate once the statement is completed. So once we are done with this one, if you are trying to print a system.out.println, but still S is still pointing to ABC, so it will print ABC only. It will not print this one because this is stored in volatile memory, heap memory. So whatever content is there in this heap memory, they will be erased once this statement is completed. Once this statement is completed, it will be evaporated. If I want to alter anything, suppose there is one more string S3 is equal to like XYZ, then in this case, one more memory will be added here. So XYZ, and it is pointed by S3. So this is how strings will be stored in the memory. That is why if you are trying to change anything to the strings, they will not be changed. They remain the same, constant. If you are if you are performing any operations on that string, that things will be stored in the heap memory. It will not change anything to the main content. Initially, whatever you have declared here, to this content, there won't be any changed. There won't be any change to this content, whatever you have defined initially. So on top of that, if you are performing any modifications like concat or replace or whatever substring, so whatever methods you are trying to access to, all the changes will be stored in the heap memory only. It will not affect the main string. Main string will be stored in the SCP, string constant pool. So no changes will be done to this, because so again, in the same program, if I am defining one more variable S4 and it is equal to XYZ, it will not create any new memory. It will point to this only. So S3 and S4 will be pointing to the same address location. So if two things are pointing to the same address location and to one particular thing, one particular string, I am trying to make changes, the other one will get disturbed. The other one will get disturbed. So what will happen? So it will not allow any changes to the main string. That is the reason why it will not allow changes to this main string. Suppose if S3 want to change itself. So S3, it is XYZ. Now I want to change it to XYZ 123. If I change it to this 123, as S4 is also pointing to the same address location, but S4 content is XYZ. So it has to create another memory location, so which is not possible in SCP. So once if the content is same, it has to point to the same location, and whatever on top of it, if you are doing any methods like if you are performing any methods like concat or replace, that will be stored in the heap location. It will not affect the main string. So at the time of declaration, whatever string you have defined, it will not make any changes to this string. That will be constant. So these strings will not affect. These are the main strings. So to these strings, you cannot make any changes. It will not allow any changes because strings are immutable. Immutable. They will not accept any changes to the main string. But for integers and other data types, it will modify the main content itself. So if you do A++ and if you are printing A, it will print the value, it will change the value to 11. The values will be changed because they are mutable. They'll allow the changes to make, but strings will not allow. Is it clear, all of you?
Yes.
Okay, so that is the reason why keys of hash map will be preferably it is a string, but it can be anything, any other thing as well. But preferably we take the key as string because of immutable nature of the strings. Okay, so that is the key value pair. The difference between the set and map is there is a small difference between a map and a set. So this is a map. This is a set. Okay. In a map, data will be stored in key value. So we have to provide both key and value. Whereas in a set, you will be providing only one thing, which will be the key. We will specify only the key. The value will be the default value. What is the default value? Present. So whatever the data you provide, that will be stored as the key. The value, it will take a default value for all the keys. Whatever keys you provide, the value will be only one, which is present. For this key 1, it will be present. For key 2, it will be present. For key 3, it will be present. So for whatever key it might be, the value will be the same, which is equal to present. Here also, the keys cannot be duplicate. That is why set will not allow duplicates. So it does not allow duplicates. Set does not allow duplicates. So the internally set works like this. So you may feel like you are giving only one data. So the data will be stored as a normal one-dimensional array. So normal, as you are providing only one data, right? Only keys you are providing, values are default things. So you are providing one data. So you may feel that it is a one-dimensional data. No, internally the set works like this. It works as a key value pair. It works as a two-dimensional data like this. So this is the key and this is the value. Value will be the same, present. For all the keys, the value will be present. But whereas for a map, the key for one key, whatever value, so you have to provide data for both the key and value. For key and value, you have to provide the data. Suppose my key is 10, the value can be any other thing, like 15 or 25, like that. So both these things you have to provide. Both key and value you have to provide. Okay, that is the main difference between a map and a set. This is the only difference. Internally, set works like a map, but the value will be the same for set, and it will be based on the user provided data for a map. So this value data we can provide for a map, but for a set, the value will be the default one, which is present. Clear, all of you? All of you? Just basic understanding what is a set, what is a queue, map, and uh, all these things, at least basic understanding. So just assume what is a list, what is set, queue, and map. We'll see one by one in detail. Don't worry about that. Now, the next thing is iterator. So what is iterator? If you want to iterate through each and every element of a collection, so if you want to iterate through each and every element of a collection, we can use either there are a lot of ways to navigate through each and every element of an collection. So one particular way is using an iterator. So you can iterate using for each loop, or you can iterate using iterator, or you have lot of options to iterate through each and every element of a collection. You can also use loops. Loops are also there. So a lot of ways to iterate. So this is something which is interesting. So iterator, we use iterator. We can also use iterator for iterating through each and every element. So this is the syntax for it. Iterator, what is the data type of the collections, and variable, whatever we want to give, is equal to collections name dot iterator. The name of the collection that we give dot iterator. It will be clear for you when we discuss one example. Okay, then this will be clear for you. The same way we can have list iterator also. So list iterator also can be there, or iterable for each. So you can use for each loop, for each also to iterate through this all the elements. So this is also one of the way. So lot of ways to iterate through collections we'll see when we work on the programs. Okay. Now, if you are using iterator, there are three methods. So iterator is an interface. For that, we have three methods like has, next, next, and remove. So what does these three methods does? Suppose this is the collection's name. AL is my collection's name. So I'm defining an iterator. Iterator. So the data type is int. Okay. So I'm assuming the name of the collection as AL and the data type as int. So iterator int of type int. So I'm giving a name it is equal to AL is the collection name, AL dot iterator. Okay. So this is how this is the syntax for creating an iterator. This iterator will iterate through data of type integer, and it will iterate through collection AL. So this is the collection name. This is the data type of collection. And this is the name we are giving for an iterator. Or else you can say like variable name. and this is the syntax, okay, for creating an iterator. Now, the collection contain integer data, right? So I have 10, 15, 25, 30, 50 like this. This is my list which contain 5 elements. So what does this iterator, how it will work is, initially it will point to the beginning of the list. Now it will work similar to for each loop only. So there are 3 methods. It dot has next. This method will check if there is next element available in this list or not. If next element is available or not. If next element is available or not. So this is how it will check. This method will help us to check if there is next element available or not. If it is, so it will return either true or false. It returns either true or false. So if the next element is available, it will return true. If next element is not available, it will return false. Okay. So this is what it will check. Now, it.next. What this method does is, if the next element is available, this next will return the element. So for the first iteration, this next will return 10. Second iteration, it will return 15. Third iteration, it will return 25. Fourth iteration, it will return 30. Fifth iteration, it will return 50. And finally, the next has next will return false. It will come out of the loop. So next will return the value, the next value present in that list. What is the next value that is present in the list? So that will be returned by this iterator.next. It is the iterator name which we give. So it.next method will return the element of the list that is next available. Next available element will be returned by this iterator.next. The last one is it.remove. It will remove, I think remove only, right? Yes, it will remove the element of the list. Suppose I am working in at this particular element 15. Okay, I am working. So it.next returned me element 15. If I use it.remove, this element will be removed from the array list. So if you want to remove any element from the list, then we use it.remove, iterator.remove method. So these are the main methods that using an iterator we can perform. It.has next, it will return if there is any next element in the collection or not. It will return only either true or false. It.next will return the element, next available element of a list. It.remove, it will remove that particular element of the list. These are the 3 methods that using an iterator we can perform. Is it clear, all of you? It has next, next, and remove. Okay. The next part is the common methods for all these collections. So these are all different types of classes, right? Has set, linked asset, reset, vector, array list. So these are classes. Obviously, they'll have some methods. So if it is a class, they'll have some methods. Among all those methods, these are the common methods. These are the common methods which we will be using. Okay, these are the common methods in all the collections which we frequently use. Okay, so what are those methods means? Add is to add a particular element to the collection. Add all means add all the elements whichever we are giving to a particular collection. So add and add all will help us in adding the elements to a collection. Add will add only one element at a time, whereas add all can help us to add group of elements to a collection. So we can add one element to the collection, or we can add group of elements to a collection using this add and add all. Okay, we will see examples. Don't worry. For now, I'm just giving you just basic understanding what are these. And remove all and clear. So what is the difference between remove all and clear? Clear will remove all the elements of a list, of a collection, and resets it to default. So it will remove all the elements from the collection and some default value like 0 or something will be assigned. Okay, so it will remove all the existing elements from the collection. Whereas remove all, using remove all, you can remove only group of elements. You can remove group of elements from the collection. We will see the differences when we are working with the collection. Okay, when we are working with a program, we will see all these methods, how they work. Okay, now what is remove if? Remove if means based on some condition, if you want to remove elements from the collection. Based on some condition, if the condition is returning true, you that will remove all those based on the condition. So an element from a collection will be removed based on a particular condition. Okay, that is remove if. Size will return the size of the collection. Clear will remove all the elements from the collection and resets it to default value. I think it will be 0. The default value will be 0. We will see it, don't worry. And retain all. So it will retains a group of data. Apart from that, all other elements will be removed. So retains only some particular group of data. Other than those data, all other elements will be removed. Okay. Equals means to compare if two collections are equal or not. General equals method. To compare two collections, then we use this method equals. Okay. Now to array, if you want to convert the collection into an array, you use this method. To array will convert a collection to array. Now contains, it will help us to check if particular element is available or not in the collection. Contains all will help us to check if group of elements are available in the collection or not. So this is the method we use. Iterator we have seen. So iterator, here we use the iterator method for a collection. So it will allow us to create an iterator. Iterator will allow us to create an iterator for the collection. We will see each and every method. Okay, don't worry about that. Now, peak and pole. Peak and pole, yes. Peak will return the first element of the collection. What is the first element of the collection? That will be returned by this peak. If the collection is empty, nothing is present in the collection, then it will return null. It will return the null value. So pole means it returns the first element and removes that first element or null if empty. It returns the first element and removes the first element, or else it will return null if empty. We'll see examples. Okay, don't worry about it. Now element means, sorry, you first see the difference between peak and element. Peak will return the first element or null if empty. This element method, it will return the first element or no such element exception if it is empty. If it is empty, it will throw an exception. But whereas peak, if the collection is empty, it will return null value. It will not throw any exception. Okay. Pole, it will return the first element and removes it or null if empty. Remove will return the first element and removes it or no such element exception if empty. Don't worry, we'll see one by one. So we'll start with add. We'll create one collection and we will start working with all these methods. So then it will be clear for you. So in a list, there are 4 types of lists. The first one is array list, linked list, vector, and stack. These are the 4 different types of list we have. So list is an interface that extends collection. Below are the classes that are implementing the list interface. So we'll see first array list. What is array list? And we'll try to perform all these methods to that array list and we'll see one by one. So once we start writing a program, then you will get to know all these things. Don't worry. Let me create public static void main. So list can be created into object to a list can be created in a 2 different ways. The first one is, I want to create of data type int. L is equal to new Mhm. It's not used. Oh, sorry. In list, you have to use this integer. I have to import these things. So these are the predefined classes. So which are available in Java. So in this library, if you go to list, it will have all those things. Okay, it is a predefined class. You just need to import it and use it in your current program. So I'm importing it from java.util. So java.util will be one package here. If you see, so you have to go through all these things. If you go through, you will have one class called java.util. Let me check it. It is not there in this. Yeah. Here it is there. In java.util, if you see, you will have collections, all the data related the collection. So collections, collection, calendar, you have the same way hash set, hash map related to collections. You will have a lot of classes here. Abstract class, map, array list. So you'll have this array list dot class. So all these things are already available. You just need to import them. So import will help us to import that program in your current program. So this list will now be imported, and all the methods in a list, you can use them now. Same way for array list. Array list is also available. Just import it. So if you import it, it will allow you to access all the methods present in that classes. You create an object to this class and access all those methods. Okay. Now, okay. We are done. This is first way of declaring an array list. So the other way is you can directly create an object like this. Integer al is equal to new array list of type integer. Okay. So these are two different ways we can create an object. As list is an interface, for interface you cannot create an object. So we use the upcasting. For array list, you create a object like this. The same way, this is the normal object creation for a class, the second type. Okay, these are two different ways you can create an object to an array list. So whichever you want, you can use them. So now to add an element, so declaration is done. Now you want to add elements to this list. How you can add? You have a method called add method. So add method will help us to add elements to the list. How you can add? You just use add, al dot add. So if you want to add any element to the list, this is how you can add. So now I'm adding element 10 to the array list. Al dot add. Let me add 5 elements. Okay. Mhm. So this is how you can add elements to the array list. Now, if you want to display the elements of array list, you can use either iterator or simply I can print it like this. L. So if you just give system.out.println al, that will print all the elements. Or otherwise, if you want to use iterator, you can use the iterator. Okay, let me run this program for now. So it printed all the values of this list. So the list contains all these elements. Or if you want to use iterator, so I'll show you that iterator data type int. So int is the data type of the collection. So int. For this, I'll give a variable it is equal to new al dot iterator. So iterator is the method which will help us to create an iterator. So this is the method, right? Iterator method. Why we use this iterator method? In order to create iterator for that collection, we use this iterator method. Now, sorry, it should be integer. So why it is not allowing int and why it is accepting integer only? That we will discuss in next session. Why it is accepting only integer, not int. There is a small difference between int and integer that we will be discussing in the next session. So for now, we'll be concentrating on this collection. Okay. So iterator also, it is a interface, right? We need to import it. So import that also from java.util. Don't I import it from Java Xwing. That is different one. So you import this iterator from java.util. So once you import, you can access all the methods. What are the methods? Has, next, next, and remove. So if you want to access all those, you can simply do like this. You use it and for now I'm using while loop. Okay. So while it dot has next, it will return either true or false, right? So this loop will be iterated until this condition is false. Until this condition is false, this loop will be repeated, iterated. Now I want to print it dot next. So it dot next will return the next available element of this collection. So for now, let me print it and let me remove this one. Using iterator, I'm printing all the elements. Okay. So it will print 10, 15, 12, 13, and 25. So this is how it will print. Now, if you want to use other remove element, right? This is okay. It dot remove. Okay. So if you want to remove, so all the elements, and now once all the elements are, so for each and every loop, you are printing that element here and you are performing the remove. For each and every element of this collection, you are printing. So at line number 24, you are printing that element, and at line number 25, you are removing the element. Suppose now the iterator is at 10. So it dot next will print 10. At line number 25, that element will be removed. The same with 15, it will print that value and that value will be removed here. So now if I try to print the size of the array list, can someone tell me what will be the output at this point of time? So al dot size, size is a method which is already available to calculate the size of the array list. Can someone tell me what will be the output at line number 28? At line number 28, what will be the output?
0.
Let's see. Because we used to remove method. So while iterating itself, we are printing that element and removing that element from the array list. That is why at the end of this loop, no element will be present in the array list. Now the size will be 0. Okay. Now, so we have seen 3 methods as of now. It is add, iterator, has next, next, remove, and size. So these are the methods that we have seen. Now we will see how to add group of elements. Okay. So for now, I'll be removing this. Now for now, I'll be removing this line and save the program. So array list, my array list AL contains 5 elements, 10, 15, 12, 13, and 25. Now I want to add all this group of elements to list L. So to list L, I want to add all these elements at a time. How I can do that? Now L dot add all. So in order to add group of elements, you use add all method. So add all method will allow you to add group of elements. So what are the group of elements that I want to add? Whatever elements are present in the AL list, I want to add all the elements to this list L. So add all will add all the elements of the AL list to list L.
వాళ్ళు రాసుకోలేదా వాళ్ళు చెప్పలేదా
Anishwar. So add all, using add all, you can add group of elements at a time to a collection. So for the L collection, for the L list, whichever we have defined at line number 10, I can add all the elements of this array list AL to that one. At a single go, I can add all those elements. Now, if I print the elements of AL L list, array list, or if I print like this, will return. See what will happen. So it stored all the elements of the array list AL. So this is how we use add all. It will allow us to add group of elements. So for L, not only those collection elements, not only AL elements, if you want to add any other elements like this, 10, 23, you can add it. You can add any number of elements. So add all will allow you to add group of elements. Add will allow you to add only one element at a time. Is it clear, all of you? The difference between add all and add.
Yes.
Okay. Now, let us see if we are trying to add integer array. I have an integer array like this. Okay, this is integer array. Now I'm trying to add that integer array to AL. Now I try to add A. Will it allow? Add all is a method which will take only collections. So add all method will take only collections. Array is not a collection. Collection is different and array is different. You feel like both are same for our visibility. Only difference is like size can be altered, but add all method will accept only collections. Collections means whatever comes under this hierarchy. Whatever comes under this hierarchy, only those elements will be considered by add all. If you try to add integer array, that will be different. See, if you have a data type like this, integer, then it may be possible, but add all method will accept only collections. It will allow only collections. You see here, it is taking a parameter as collection only. It is not taking any other parameter. Add all method will accept only collections. Arrays also are not accepted. Okay. So that is the difference that I want to show you. Now, if I want to convert this array list to array, I can do that using to array method. So if I want to convert it, al dot to array, you can do that. Now, this to array method will not convert it to integer type of array. So the array list is of type integer. If you use al dot to array, it will convert it to array, but it will not give the data type as integer. It will give the superclass type. What is the superclass? Object. So this to this data type it will convert. If you try to like give as int, it will throw an error because cannot convert object array to integer array. So what if you are converting any collections to an array, it will take the data type as object. It will not take any other data type. Here the array list is of type integer, but it is converted to the superclass. Object is the superclass for all the classes, right? So it will convert the array to superclass type, which is object. Now, if you want to check if this is converted to array or not, one simple thing I can say, for arrays, what is the method to calculate the size? It is length, obj.length. Whereas for collection, it is size. For arrays, it is length. Length is the method to calculate the length of the array, whereas size is the method to calculate the size of the array list. Now you can use the indexing concept. So if you want to print any element, obj of Suppose fourth element I want to print. So I'll use I'll use this way to print. Whereas in collections, if you want to print any particular method, you will use the iterator like this. You will use the iterator like this. But for array, if you want to print any element, you can. So this is one. So indexing. So array, if you want to access any element, this is the syntax. Whereas for collection, you can access it using the index only. But if you use the iterator, this is how you can print it. Right? So these are the differences how you can iterate through an array and collection. Now if I run this program, so this is the output. So obj.length is 5, it printed 5, and fourth element is 13, so it printed 13. Clear all of you how to convert an collection to array? Array will, after converting it to array, the data type will not be the same as the collection. It will be the super type. What is the super type? It will convert it to object only. So whatever the data type of the collection it might be, the output of toArray method will always be object array. Object array. Clear all of you?
Last one, object of obj of 3.
Okay, that is the fourth element of this array. What is the, so what are the elements in this array now? Obj, what and all are available for in this AL?
0, 1, 2, 3. Okay.
Okay. Okay, so we'll discuss the rest of methods in next session. What are the methods we have? We'll discuss all these methods in the next session. For now, so this is how we declare a collection. These are the two different types because list is an interface and array list is the child of list interface. So these are the two ways how you can declare a collection and how you can add individual elements like this and how you can iterate through array. Okay, let me write it like this. Let me comment each and everything. So declare a collection, add it's to collection. Iterate through collection elements.
See.
Add all. Convert to array. Okay. So we will see the rest of methods in next session.